This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good morning everyone. Thanks for bearing with me. I apologize for the delay. Parshas Va'eschanan. My favorite Parsha. I just love Parshas Va'eschanan. It happens to be my Bar Mitzvah Parsha. And it's a nice Parsha, it's a nice Parsha. It has Aser Sadibros, it has Shema, it has the Tefillah of Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu says, Va'eschanan el Hashem ba'es hahilemar. And let me just first welcome the Kollel Agra de Pirka of Kew Garden Hills and anywhere that you find yourself. So Moshe Rabbeinu says, and I was mischanein to Hashem at that time saying, firstly, what does the word Va'eschanan mean? And what does Moshe mean when he says at that time? So Chazal tell us that the word Va'eschanan is a gematria, and the numerical value of Va'eschanan is 515, and this teaches that Moshe Rabbeinu offered 515 tefillos. Says the Medrash, Uminayin she'espalel Moshe ba'osei haperek chamesh meos v'chamisha asar pa'amim. How do we know that Moshe davened at that time 515 prayers? Shenemar Va'eschanan El Hashem ba'osei hilemar Va'eschanan begematria hachihavi. The numerical value of Va'eschanan is 515. So Moshe Rabbeinu really wanted to go into Eretz Yisrael, as we all do, especially now. And Moshe davened 515 times to be able to get in. And Hashem basically told him, Rav Lach, enough already. I don't want to hear another word. Please don't daven again. And Hashem did not allow Moshe Rabbeinu not only to go into Eretz Yisrael, but even to daven further. But the pasuk implies that Moshe put in extra exertion in davening to enter Eretz Yisrael, specifically at that time. What happened at that time? And what is this strange number of 515 that Chazal are saying that Moshe Rabbeinu davened this number? Why this number? What is the significance of this number? What, every time it says a word of prayer, then we could discover the number of times the prayer was offered by figuring out the gematria of that word? Is that all it is? It's just some kind of cute gematria? So the holy Pnei Yehoshua, Rabbi Yehuda of Krakow, who was born in the year 1681, and he passed away in the year 1756. If you look in the Chida, in the Mareches Hagadolim, on the Ois Yud, Mareches Yud Ois Reish Chafei, the Chida brings that Rabbi Yehuda of Krakow, who hagoin av bezdin v'reish mesifta dekal kadosh, Frankfurt domain, shnas tav kuf aleph. He was the rabbi there in the year 1741. He was the Av Bezin and the Ram 1741. V'yatsa shemai b'chol ha'olam b'emtzas chiburei tahara Pnei Yehoshua. And his fame spread to the world through the medium of his magnum opus, Pnei Yehoshua. And says the Chida, by the way, we know that the Chida, when he went to Livorno to collect money for the Bnei Eretz Yisrael, so he was in a lazaretto. Lazaretto is basically quarantine, because before you enter a country, they used to quarantine you. It used to be, this sounded strange to people. Now it's, everyone understands. Before you enter a country, you go into lazaretto. And the Chida did not have Svarim on him. So that's when he wrote the great work, Shem HaGedolim. He wrote it entirely from memory, where he lists all the Gedolei Yisrael that lived before him in one section, and all the Svarim that were ever written in another section. And the Chida traveled throughout Europe, where he met a number of Gedolim, including the Pnei Yehoshua, Ba'ani hatzoyer zachisi kab Pnei Shechina, and I, the young rabbi, the Chida says about himself, I merited to receive, to greet, to meet the Shechina, namely the Pnei Yehoshua, Eze Yamim for a few days, Umarehu kemare malach ha'elakim. His appearance was that of an angel of God. Now, that means a few things. Number one, the Chida knew what a malach looked like. I don't know what a malach looked like. Chida says, I know what a malach looks like. And number two, the Pnei Yehoshua looked like a malach. V'nosan li b'matana sefer Pnei Yehoshua. And he gave me as a gift the book Pnei Yehoshua, Al Seder Moyed, Nidfas Boy Beparak. That's also a thing. He didn't say, here's my book, the price is $18.99. He gave it to him as a gift. And V'noch nafshe derav shnas taf kof yudvav. He passed away in the year 516. I believe that's significant. The year 516, that's 1756. Zachisi, now when I was in Frankfurt to be at the kever of the Pnei Yehoshua. And the Pnei Yehoshua has an amazing exposition here of the significance of Moshe Rabbeinu's Tefillos. But let's begin as follows. In terms of the greatness of the Pnei Yehoshua, in the Sefer Shal Teshuvas Avnei Tzedek, Chelek Even Ezer, Simnayin Zayin, he writes that to the questioner, he says, it seems to me that you feel the Pnei Yehoshua was not so clear on the issue. I just want you to know what my Rebbe, the Chassam Sofer, said. Uva oznai, and I'm sorry for the lines. This copy was made back in the days that people use fax machines, and hopefully we could update this one day with the scanner. But the Avnei Tzedek says, I heard from my Rebbe, the Chassam Sofer, Shemichibor harashba loikam kechibor hapnei Yehoshua. Since the composition of the Rashba, Klal Yisrael were never gifted such a matana toiva as the Sefer Pnei Yehoshua. So that is the esteem that the Pnei Yehoshua was held in. I will tell you that as a Rav of a community, they gave him a run for his money. And that is, they were not makir the godless of the Pnei Yehoshua as a Rav, as they were not many Rabbanim in Europe, many Gedolim that we know about, because he was unwilling to bow to the whims of the local wealthy Balabatim. However, among the Bnei Torah and the Gedolei Yisrael, he was an icon. He was considered from the greatest of the Achronim. You heard what the Chassam Sofer says, that from the times of the Rashba, Klal Yisrael were not graced with a sefer like the Pnei Yehoshua. But just imagine if we say, if only we had a Rav like the Pnei Yehoshua. In the times of the Pnei Yehoshua, they were roidef him. They were roidef the Pnei Yehoshua. They were roidef him from the city. Anyway, the Pnei Yehoshua says as follows. In Parshas Va'eschanan, Moshe says, Ba'es hahi. What does it mean, Ba'es hahi? Says Rashi, we know God swore to Moshe, Lachein, by the chid of Mei Meriva, Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu, you ain't going into the land. So why is Moshe Rabbeinu davening to go into Eretz Yisrael? Says Rashi in this week's Parsha. Now that I conquered Sichain and Oig, and Sichain and Oig also have somewhat a quasi-status of Eretz Yisrael, Dimisi, I thought Shema Hutar HaNeder, maybe the Neder became Mutar, because I already conquered Sichain and Oig. By the way, we could add the following thought. The Gemara says in Saita, why did Moshe Rabbeinu want to go into Eretz Yisrael? Did he want to eat the fruits? And the Gemara in Saita says no. He wanted to be Mekayim the mitzvah Hatzluyos Ba'aretz. So the Achroinim ask, including Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky, why does the Gemara say he wanted to be Mekayim mitzvah Hatzluyos Ba'aretz? It should have said he wanted to be Mekayim the mitzvah of Yishuv Eretz Yisrael. Why do we have to go to Trumais and Masrois? More basic. Say he wanted to live in Israel because it's a mitzvah to live in the land. The answer Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky gives is he already did that mitzvah. But Eiver LaYarden is considered Eretz Yisrael. The Bnei Gad and Bnei Ruvain were Mekayim the mitzvah of Yishuv Eretz Yisrael. By the way, if you live in Jordan, you're Mekayim the mitzvah of Yishuv Eretz Yisrael. It's just you're not Mekayim the mitzvah of Tluyos Ba'aretz. So Moshe Rabbeinu figured, God swore he's not going to bring me to Israel. He already did. I already went Eiver LaYarden. So if I went Eiver LaYarden, so maybe I could go into the land as well. Furthermore, in Parshas Devarim, the pasuk says, "Vayomer Hashem Elai Rei Hachi Loisi Teis Lefanecha Esichain V'Yes Artzai Hachel Rosh La Reshes Es Artzai." God said to me, "See, I've already began to give before you Sichain and his land." Says Rashi, "Kafa Sar Shel Amorim Shel Mala Tachas Raglav Shel Moshe." Hashem tied up the ministering angel of Amori under the feet of Moshe Rabbeinu, and Moshe Rabbeinu stepped on his neck. In other words, Hashem was showing Moshe, Moshe, look, I'm already beginning to deliver the residents of Eretz Yisrael in your hands. You're stepping on the neck of the ministering angel of Emory. So Moshe Rabbeinu figures, okay, God is rescinding his decree, he's changing his mind. Furthermore, Moshe had this argument was further bolstered by the fact that for 38 years, since the Chet HaMeraglim, guess who didn't speak to Moshe Rabbeinu? God. God did not speak to Moshe Rabbeinu until last week's Parsha. Take a look. Vayehi chasher tamu konshei hamilchama lamus mikaravam vayedaber Hashem elai lemor. By the way, I have a question. Let's say you're Maver Sedra with Rashi instead of Unklas. Does this Rashi on Perek Tezayin count? Right? Because if there's no Rashi on the Pasuk, you have to read the Pasuk 3 times. So this Rashi, it's interesting Rashi. Rashi wants to know what's the juxtaposition between, and when all the men of the Midbar stopped dying, at the end of the 40 years, then God spoke to Moshe. Rashi sort of puts these two psukim together, even though there's a samach over here. Rashi says they go together. Avo mishiluach hameraglim adkan, from the time the messengers, the spies were sent until now, loy nemar beparsha zu vayedaber. God did not speak to Moshe, like the Gemara says in Baba Basra, Rav Dimi bar Yosef Rav Nachman. The Gemara wants to know, what is the simcha of Tu B'Av? We know, when is Tu B'Av this year? Shabbos, right? When is Tu B'Av? Today is Yud, right? So then, Tuesday is Yud Aleph, Wednesday is Yud Beis, Thursday is Yud Gimel, Friday is Yud Daled, Shabbos is Tu B'Av. So what is the simcha of Tu B'Av? The Gemara brings an opinion, that is when the Meisei Midbar stopped dying. And so long as the Meisei Midbar died, Hashem did not speak to Moshe Rabbeinu. And then the pasuk says, "Vayhi chasher tamu kanshei hamilchama lamus mikarav ha'am vayedaber Hashem elai lemar." That God started speaking to Moshe Rabbeinu face to face. So Moshe thought, oh, God was angry at me for 38 years, but now he's come around. Now he's speaking to me again. Even though Rashi explains that certainly Hashem spoke to Moshe throughout, but the conversation was at a distance. It was not an intimate conversation. It was only vayomer. Even though vayedaber is usually understood as midas hadin, but on the other hand, it also connotes a more intimate type of conversation. So when the men of the Midbar stopped dying, we know that every year on Tisha B'Av, Klal Yisrael would dig their own graves. They would lie down in the grave, and every year 15,000 Jews did not survive. So if you have 600,000 men between 20 and 60, and every year 15,000 pass away, how long is it going to take for them all to pass away? It's going to take 40 years. So sure enough, in year 40, there were 15,000 Jews left, and they dug their own graves, and they woke up in the morning, and they said, wow, what world am I in? Am I in Olam Hazeh, or am I in Olam Haba? And they realized they were still in this world. And they kept they said, maybe we miscalculated. They went to sleep again and again and again until they saw a full moon, and they realized it was mid-month, and they recognized that the Gezerah had been rescinded. So here Moshe Rabbeinu says, wait a second. God swore he's not going to take me into Eretz Yisrael, but he already helped me conquer the land of Sichon and Og. And he allowed me to step on the neck of the angels representing the nations of the world. And God is speaking to me again, so maybe he's going to bring me into the Holy Land. So Moshe Rabbeinu started to daven. Ba'es hahi. When is Ba'es hahi? So the Pnei Yeshua offers an amazing pshat. Says the holy Pnei Yeshua in Masechta Brachas Daf Lamed Beis. V'yisyashev yoiser. This is more answered. L'fima de'isa b'medrash pliyah. Based on what we find in the Medrash Pliyah, shehispalel Moshe, that Moshe daven, Taf Kuf Tes Vav Tefillos, 515 Tefillos, Kaminyan va'eschanan, V'hu peli, it's a wonder. Ma boi l'lamdeinu b'zeh. What are Chazal coming to teach with this number 515? So the Pnei Yehoshua says something remarkable. He says this is not a gematria over here. The gematria is just an asmachta ba'alma. But rather, based on what we just quoted from Rashi, that after Hashem helped Moshe Rabbeinu conquer Eretz Sichon v'Oig, and Moshe thought Hashem's shvuah was batal, and the fact that Hashem told Moshe, you could step on the neck of the angels of the Emoiri, and the fact that Hashem started to speak to Moshe again, says the Pnei Yehoshua, in all likelihood, when did Moshe Rabbeinu start davening again to enter Eretz Yisrael? He began on Tu B'Av. Well, says the Pnei Yehoshua, let's make a cheshbon. If he began on Tu B'Av, and Moshe Rabbeinu was niftar on Zayin Adar, so let's make a cheshbon. Between Av and Adar, how many full months you have? You have Elul, Tishrei, Cheshvan, Kislev, Teves, Shvat. You have 6 full months. 6 full months is 180 days. But every other month is Malei Chaser, Malei Chaser, Malei Chaser. That's 177. The month of Av is Malei. How many days in Av? From the 15th to the 30th is 16 days. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. Yeah, does that work out? If Moshe Rabbeinu started, says the Pnei Yehoshua, so here there's 16 days in Av, and then you have 7 days in Adar. That's a total of 200 days. Think about it. You have 177 days from Elul until the end of Shvat. You have 16 days in Av and 17 days in Adar. 200 days. So Moshe Rabbeinu davened Shachris, Mincha, Marev. That is 600 tefillos. Okay, so Moshe davened 600 tefillos. But the only thing is, on Shabbos, an individual cannot daven for their needs. Now, how many Shabbosim are in 200 days? Well, let's make a quick calculation. 7 into 200 is 28. So there are 28 Shabbosim. So if you subtract from 600, 28 times 6, what is 28 times 6? Someone help me out here. 56, 76, 84, yeah? 28 times 3 is 74.
28 times 3 is 84.
28 times 3 is 84, thank you, right.
168.
So, is 84. 28 times 3 is 84. If that's the case, so if Moshe has 600 tefillos from Tu B'Av until Zayin Adar, and you subtract the Shabbosim, that means there are a total of 516 tefillos. So where does 515? Look what the Pnei Yehoshua says. We know that on Shabbos there's no bakashas in Musaf. Okay, so you have Raksha Yodea Shabbos Ein HaYachad Shal Tzrachav. Person doesn't ask for their needs on Shabbos. V'mkein kishatasir chavches Shabbosais. When you subtract the 28 Shabbosais, shahayu ba'oisan yamim shal reish yom nishar kuf ayin beis yamim. You have 172 days. There are 200 days. Minus 20 is 170 days. Times 3 is 516. Now, Amnam shetfilas tesvav ba'atzmai. The thing is, Moshe Rabbeinu didn't start davening Marev on Tu B'Av. Why? Because Hashem didn't speak privately with Moshe Rabbeinu only b'yoyim v'loy b'layla. So on Tu B'Av he only davened 2 tefillos. So it's amazing. You have 172 days, but the first day Marav didn't count. So in that case, Moshe Rabbeinu, he didn't daven 515 because that's the gematria of Eschanan. As soon as he got a whim, as soon as he had a Pesach to pray to Hashem to enter Eretz Yisrael, he davened for that every single day, 3 times a day. By the way, this is a very important lesson. If somebody needs something, you incorporate it in the 3 tefillos that you daven. And that's what Moshe Rabbeinu did. Starting Shachris on Tu B'Av, taking him till Mincha on Zayin Adar, and then he passed away. If he would have lived longer, he would have davened longer. But there's no special gematria of Eschanan is gematria 515. That's how we figured it out. No, that's just a remez to the fact that there are 515 tefillos between Tu B'Av and Zayin Adar. Now, I would still like to investigate, and it's still somewhat a question to me, because even though a person should not daven for their needs on Shabbos, that is, you shouldn't daven that for your maybe your parnasa or your personal needs. But here Moshe Rabbeinu, he wants to go into Eretz Yisrael because he wants to mekayim the mitzvahs, and he wants to be mizdabek ta HaKadosh Baruch Hu be'artzos hachayim. You would think that would be something you're allowed to do on Shabbos. You know, you're not daven for your physical needs on Shabbos, but you can't daven for your spiritual needs. Moshe couldn't daven to go into Eretz Yisrael on Shabbos. So I'd like to offer perhaps some more insight into that. This, the Pnei Yehoshua says, is a correct pshat. Kain nirali nachon. It seems to me this is correct. However, the Pnei Yehoshua in Brachos on Daf Lamed Beis continues, and he says, I would like to give the following pshat al pi drush. And that is, Chazal say, Hashem told Moshe, Rav lach, don't add one more tefillah. Don't daven the 516th tefillah. Why? 516 is 6 times Midas Hadin. Midas Hadin is Elohim. Elohim is Midas Hadin. Elohim is 86. And there are 6 koichos of dinim. There are 6 forces of din. Somebody once went to a tish of a Rebbe, and he came back, and he said, I don't know what this Rebbe is talking about. He kept on saying, Elohim is 86. I don't get it. The kuf alone is 100. I don't know what this rabbi is talking about. Anyway, the Elohim with a hey is 86, and there are 6 forces of din. And if Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to be mavatel the 6 bate dinim, and if he would have said 516 tefillos, he would have been answered. So Hashem said, cut it there. I don't want you to say the 516th tefillah. So I want to investigate this. What exactly are these 6 forces of din? The pasuk says in Yechezkel, "Vayikra v'yaznai kol gadol leimar karevu pkudai sa'ir," and he called out in my ears a great voice, saying, "It has come close." Pekudai Seir, the appointed ones to destroy the city. Vish klimash chesai biadai. Now look at this. V'hinei shisha nashim ba'im iderach shar ho'el yain. 6 men were coming from the road of the upper gate. Asher mafnat safainaf. That was open to the north. So there's 6 guys coming from the north. Now the north is always Midas Hadin. Like the pasuk says, Mitzafain tipasach hara. The evil comes from the north. The Navi Yirmiyah says when Babylon came to destroy Israel, they came from the north. That's why Jews like to go to Miami Beach, because the evil comes from the north. So the south is Midas Harachamim. That's why in Midas HaChesed, Avram Avinu in the whole Torah, he never goes north. He's always Haloich v'Nasaya Hanegba. Jews always go south. South is Midas HaChesed. Why is that? Very simple. Because if you're facing the Mizrach, then your right hand, which is Chesed and Rachamim, is to the south, and your left hand is to the north. That's why, very interestingly, the pasuk says, Uri tzafain ubayi seiman, arouse to the north and come to the south. This is explained homiletically. When you want to learn Torah, wake up yourself with the north side. Wake up yourself with Shaloi Lishma. The money's in the north. Ruchnius is in the south. So Uri Tzafan, you have to arouse yourself to learn Torah. Shaloi Lishma, Ubayi Teiman, and eventually you'll come to the south. That's one of the reasons why the Torah begins with the letter Beis. Why? Because the Beis is considered open to the north and closed to the south. So you enter in the north side, Shaloi Lishma, Umitach Shaloi Lishma, Ba Lishma. Okay, but putting that aside, the pasuk seems to say that there are 6 men who are coming from the north, 6 men of evil. Says the Gemara in Shabbos, Uman Ninu Shisha Anashim. Who are these 6 guys? Amar of Chizda, Ketzef, Af, V'chema, Mashchis, Meshaber, Mechala. These are the 6 forces of evil. Ketzef, anger. Af, wrath. Chema, fierce anger. Mashchis, destruction. Meshaber, breaking. Mechala, annihilation. These are the 6 forces of evil. By the way, the holy Megala Amukos, and if I'm not mistaken, tomorrow, this week is the yard site of the Megala Amukos. Rav Nasa Nata Shapira of Krakow, he writes that Moshe wanted to remove the 6 forces of evil, and therefore he davened, Ebra na. The word Ebra could be read Ba Ra'a. He wanted to be Mavatel the Ra, and therefore Ebra na Ve'era. Ve'era, the letter Vav is an extra letter, indicating that Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to be Mavatel the 6 dargin of Ra. And they come from the north, as we pointed out. The north side is the side of Ra. Umitzafa inti pasach Ra. And Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to be Mavatel, the 6 forces of Ra. By the way, these 6 forces of Ra have a parallel in Tumah. How many levels of Tumah are there? There is Avi Avois HaTumah, which is the dead body itself. There's an Av HaTumah, which is someone who touches a dead body, or a Sheretz, or a Zav. There is a Rishon B'Tumah, somebody who touches an Av HaTumah. Or a Mashke, even that touches a Sheni, becomes a Rishon. There's a Sheni B'Tumah, that is, if food touches a Rishon, it becomes a Sheni. Now, typically, a Sheni cannot make anything a Shlishi except for Truma could be a Shlishi. And really, nothing could become a Ravi, but Kodshim could become a Ravi. So there are 6 Koichos of Tumah are paralleled in the 6 Dargos of Tumah. Avi Avois, Av, Rishon, Sheni, Shlishi, Ravi. And Moshe Rabbeinu also is alluding to this in the word Ebra, which could be re-scrambled Arba'a, meaning Tumah is up to 4 Madregos. And the word Na refers to Tumas Hames. Why? It's Rashi Tevos, Nefesh Adam. Because Chazal say even a Revius Dam from a Nefesh is Metame Avi Avos HaTumah. That's why he said Ve'ereb with an extra Vav, referring to these 6 Koichos of Tumah. And Rav Pinchas Friedman, in his Sefer Likutei Mamarim, Shvilei Pinchas, he wants to know what is the significance and the meaning that there's 6 Batei Dinim of Tumah, Keneged 6 names Elohim, and how did Moshe think he would be able to mavatel these 6 names by entering Eretz Yisrael? Raise your hand if you daven Nusach Sfard. Anyone? Okay, I don't either, but it's okay. Nothing wrong, nothing will happen if you daven Nusach Sfard. But those who daven Nusach, raise your hand if you've ever been in a Nusach Sfard shul. Okay, raise your hand if you're, I don't know what. Okay, so the Zohar HaKadosh Nusach Ashkenaz between Kabbalah Shabbos and Marav, they say Bamem Adlikin. Nusach Sfar substitutes it with a passage from the Zohar and Parshas Truma of Kegavna. And in Kegavna we say as follows: Kar'ayo Shabbos, when Shabbos enters, Ihi is Yachadas, it unifies, Ve'is Parashas Misitra Achara, and it separates from the forces of Tumah. V'chol Dinin Misabran Minei, and all forces of Din separate from the Shabbos, and separate from a person. V'ihi Ishta'aras, and the person remains, V'yechuda Denehiru Kadisha, in the unification of the holy light, this Atras Bechama Itrin, and is crowned in many crowns, Legabe Malka Kadisha, from the holy king. V'chol Shultane Rugzin, and all dominions of anger, Umare Dedina, and masters of din, Kulu Arkin, they flee. V'lesh Shultana Achara B'chulei Am, they have no dominion in this world. Basically, the Zohar says, come Shabbos, and the forces of din, they dissipate, they leave. Why is that? Why is it that the forces of din leave on Shabbos? Well, the Balatanya in his Sefer Likutei Torah says something amazing. We know that throughout the Maisa Bereshis, the only Shem Hashem that appears is Elohim. The Shem Havaya does not appear even once. How many times does it say Elohim? 32 times. As the Sefer Yitzira says, God created the world with 32 pathways of Chachma, indicated by the 32 times it says Elohim. So during the weekday, it's Elohim, 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 Elohim. And what does the pasuk say on Shabbos? Vayichal Elohim. Elohim is done. Midas Hadin is finished. There's no Midas Hadin on Shabbos. Midas Hadin is only during the week. Shabbos is only Rachamim. On Shabbos, Vayichal Elohim. Elohim is one and done, it's gone. Elohim dissipates, so to speak. There's no Midas Hadin on Shabbos. Says the Shvilei Pinchas, this gives us an added insight. We know that, technically speaking, Kiddush Friday night should begin Yom HaShishi Vayichulu HaShamayim V'Aretz V'chol Tzva'am. Actually, that's where Kiddush does begin. Where it should begin is Vayichulu HaShamayim V'Aretz V'chol Tzva'am. Why in the world would you mention Yom HaShishi? It's not Yom HaShishi, it's Yom HaShvi. We have this odd minhag of starting Shabbos, starting Kiddush, Yom HaShishi. Why say the words Yom HaShishi from the end of the previous pasuk and chapter and juxtapose it? Kiddush is Vayichulu HaShamayim V'Aretz V'chol Tzva'am. Why the last pasuk is Vayar Elohim es kol asher asa v'hinei tov ma'od Vayar Vayivag Yom HaShishi, finished. And Kiddush should begin Vayichulu HaShamayim V'Aretz. No, we have to start Kiddush Yom HaShishi. Why? Why in the world should we start Kiddush Yom HaShishi? So the reason is we want to be merames to the Yud Kei Vav Kei. Yom Hashishi Vayichulu Hashamayim is Rashi Tevois Shem Havaya Yud Kei Vav Kei. So why do we say Vayi'era Vayivoker quietly? Because the words Yom Hashishi have no meaning. The sixth day. What happened on the sixth day? So we want to give some meaning to it. So we say quietly Vayi'era Vayivoker Yom Hashishi. So the Chassam Sofer wants to know, why don't we start from the beginning of the pasuk? Vayar Hashem es kol asher asa v'hinei tov ma'od. So the Chassam Sofer says, because the Medrash darshans on Vayar Elohim es kol asher asa v'hinei tov ma'od, the Medrash says this refers to the Yom HaMisa. God saw everything He made and it was very good. This refers to the Yom HaMisa. Now, the last thing you want to do when you come to your table Friday night is start your Shabbos meal with the day of death. You know, your family hasn't seen you the whole week, your kids haven't seen you, they're vying for your attention, and finally you sit down at the Shabbos table, and it's set, and it's so beautiful, and the father makes a big announcement. The day of death! So they're not going to be looking forward to the next Shabbos meal. So we don't like to say the first half of the pasuk, and we say quietly, Vayera Vayivoker, we say that quietly, and then we say Yom HaShishi, and Vayichulu HaShamayim, we're meramis to the Shem Havaya. Yeah.
You need a different explanation for homes that are empty nests, like senior citizens who attend the Shiur. They don't have any kids in the house a whole week anyway.
Okay, well, I don't know if your wife, you're gonna, Friday night, you want to have a peaceful meal. Still, I don't know if the day of death is the way to kick off your Shabbos Suda. And, okay, but bottom line is, why do we want to be merames to the Shem Havaya in the Kiddush Friday night? Because since we're articulating Vayechal Elokim, the Midas Hadin has ceased, has ended, is no longer, therefore it's appropriate to say the Midas Hadin has ended, and Shabbos is the Yom Havaya, Shabbos is the day of the Yud Kei Vav Kei. So we say Vayechal Elokim, the Midas Hadin has ended, and Shabbos is the Midas Havaya. Says the Shvilei Pinchas, but by the way, one other thing to point out, is the Gemara teaches that merely on the first day of creation, it says Elokim 6 times. Bereshis, bara, Elokim. Veruach, Elokim. Rachav Zameh, vayomer Elokim. Vayar Elokim zar kitay. Vayavd Elokim. Vayikra Elokim la'ar. So it says Elokim 6 times. And again, this indicates there's 6 koichos of din. On Shabbos, Midas Hadin ceases. During the week, it's prevalent. Suggests the Shvilei Pinchas, the 6 days of the week correspond to the 6 Batei Dinim, the 6 Koichos Hadin. Shabbos instead refers to the Shem Havaya. So the 6 days of the week correspond to the 6 Koichos of Din. On Shabbos it's Vayechal Elokim. By the way, amazing thing, Friday night we make Kiddush. What do you make Kiddush on? Yayin. Where do you put the Yayin? In a kais. What's the gematria of kais Yayin, says the Bnei Yissaschar? 156. Kais is 86, Yayin is 70. 156. Why 156? Because 156 is 6 times Havaya. During the week, there's 6 koichos of din, 6 times Elokim. Shabbos is keneged that, 6 koichos of Shem Havaya. So to be mavatel the Midas Hadin during the week, you make Kiddush on kois yayin, 6 times Havaya. What do you do then? You have challah. How many? 2. Lechem, twice. Lechem is 78. What's 78 times 2? 156. 6 times Havaya. Because we want to be mavatel the 6 koichos of din during the week. During the week, there's 6 koichos of din. Shabbos, keneged that, so to speak, has 6 forces of midas harachamim, midas havaya. Back to the Nusach Sfard people. In Tehillim, during the week, many, those who daven Nusach Sfard say the following chapter, Lam natseach benaginois mizmar shir. The Arizal says, quoted by Rav Chaim Vital, on Shabbos, instead of Lam natseach benaginois mizmar shir, you say, Lam natseach mizmar leDavid hashamayim misaprim kvoid kel. Why would Lam Natseach Mizdav Hashemayim Misam Kvoid Kel be the Shabbos substitute for Lam Natseach Benaginois Mizmar Shir? Well, the Arizal happens to point out, how many times does it say Elokim in Lam Natseach Benaginois Mizmar Shir? Elokim Yechaneinu V'Yivarcheinu. Yadu Chamim Elokim. Yadu Chamim Elokim. Elokim, Elokeinu, Elokim, 6 times Elokim in Lam Natseach Benaginas Mizmar Shir. Therefore, it's reserved for the weekday, because the weekday are the 6 koichos of din. And on Shabbos, we substitute it. Toiras Hashem Temima, Eidos Hashem Ne'amana, Pekudei Hashem Yisharim, Mitzvahs Hashem Bara, Yiras Hashem, Mishvatei Hashem. Says Arizal, you say Hashamayim Mesapim Kvoid Kel, She'ein Oimrim Moisei B'Shabbos L'fikach Timsa by Vav Havayas Neged Vav. So during the week, there are 6 koichos of din. The 6 weekdays correspond to the 6 koichos of din. Shabbos is yayin in a kois. Lechem Mishnah Lamnatseach Beneginois Mizmar LeDavid. Shabbos are the 6 koichos of Rachamim, and Shabbos are the 6 koichos of Rachamim. During the weekday is 6 koichos of Din. But the Arizal is megala to us a tremendous side. Because according to the Pnei Yehoshua, Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to be mevatel the 6 koichos of Din. 6 times 86 is 516. You hear this? 6 times 86. How do you get that? 6 times 80 is 480. And 6 times 6 is 36, 516. Moshe Rabbeinu, by davening 516 tefillos, he wanted to be mevatel all 516 koichos adin. However, the Arizal says that even though God told Moshe Rabbeinu, don't say the 516th tefillah, we do have the audacity and the gumption to say it, although not explicitly, but to allude to it. And that is, Arizal says, Yiskadel v'yiskadesh shemei Rabbah is gematria Yoisher. Yud, Vav, Shin, Reish. Is Rashi Tevis Yoisher, which is 516. And the Arizal says one should be mechavein to sweeten the 6 forces of din that equal 516. So even though we don't daven that tefillah outright, and Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu, don't say it, don't say it, don't say it, we allude to it. That is the tefillah of Kaddish. That is the power of Kaddish. That is the tefillah that Moshe Rabbeinu was told not to say. Otherwise, he's going to be mevatel the koichos of din. By the way, we can now put the 2 perushim of the Pnei Yehoshua together, and I think it fits like a glove. How's that? We asked the question, the Pnei Yeshua's cheshbon was not precise, because there are 200 days from Tu B'Av until Zayin Adar, and they're really 600 tefillos. He said, no, they're not 600 tefillos, because they're 28 Shabbosim, and that subtracts 784 tefillos. So we asked, what do you mean Shabbosim? Why couldn't Moshe Rabbeinu daven on Shabbos? No, you're not allowed to daven for your needs on Shabbos. But we asked, this is not a physical need, this is a spiritual need. He should have been allowed to daven for his spiritual needs. We could say as follows. What was Moshe Rabbeinu davening for? He was davening to be mavatel the midas hadin of the weekdays. So the Shabbosim, it wasn't relevant for him to daven, because Shabbos already is Shem Havaya. Shabbos is already Vayechal Elokim. There is no Midas Hadin on Shabbos. There's only Midas Harachim. It was only needed for Moshe Rabbeinu to daven regarding the weekdays. So for the Shabbosim, there was no purpose in davening. Those days were already taken care of. Those days were already covered. So those days go, these 2 perushim of the Pnei Yehoshua, namely, that Moshe Rabbeinu davened from Tu B'Av until Zayin Adar, and the second perush that Moshe Rabbeinu davened to be mevatel all the forces of din, these 2 perushim, so to speak, go hand in hand. Now, we're now holding in the month of, what's the name of this month? Let's take a poll. Raise your hand if the name of the month is Av. Raise your hand if the name of the month is Menachem Av. And the answer is, you're both correct, or you're both wrong. The Chassam Sofer is of the opinion, it depends. Until Tu B'Av, or until Tisha B'Av, it's the month of Av. After Tu B'Av, or after Tisha B'Av, it's the month of Menachem Av. Chassam Sofer says it's 2 different months, and they each have their own specific name. This is the month, starting after Tisha B'Av, we start to console and bring nechama to the Midas Hadin. This was the tefillah of Moshe Rabbeinu. Let's just end off that Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to daven 516 tefillahs. But God said, don't do it. I can't let you in. You can't go into Israel. You can't be mevatel the 516 forces of din. We still got to leave some din in the world until the ultimate redemption of the Jewish people. Rabbeinu B'chaye tells us, Ki meitzeischa me'eretz Mitzrayim arenu neflais. the way we left Egypt, that is how the Geula HaAsida will look. The same way we made 42 Masois before we got into Eretz Yisrael, we will again make 42 Masois. The same way we traveled through the Midbar, we will again travel through the Midbar. And who will lead us? The Bnei Yissaschar says that's why Moshe Rabbeinu was buried in the Midbar, because he will arise again, and all the Meisei Midbar will get up at Tchias HaMeisim, and Moshe Rabbeinu will lead them into the Holy Land. And this time, Moshe Rabbeinu will not be told, don't say that 516th tefillah that will bring you into the land. Moshe Rabbeinu will be allowed to say the 516th tefillah, which we allude to, Yiskadel v'Yiskadei Shmei Rabbah. And Moshe Rabbeinu will then be allowed into Eretz Yisrael. So you'll say, oh, that means there'll be another Kriyas Yamsuf. Yes, Rabbeinu Bechaya says there'll be another Kriyas Yamsuf. By the way, let's make a cheshbon. Tisha B'Av, Yud Aleph, Yud Beis, Yud Gimel, Yud Daled, Tesvav. Tisha B'Av always comes out the same night as the first day of Pesach. That means Tu B'Av always comes out the same day as Shvi Shel Pesach. Tu B'Av is the day of Shiduchim. That's Koshe Zivugay Shel Adam Kekriyas Yamsuf. That's a parallel between Shiduchim and the splitting of the sea. But it's also a parallel to the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu started to daven on Tu B'Av, and ultimately he will be let in again when there will be another Kriyas Yamsuf. Now, who revealed this all to us? That Moshe Rabbeinu davened 5:15 and he wanted to daven 5:16. This all comes from the Pnei Yehoshua. The Balei Moishlim say as followed. The Pnei Yehoshua was born in the year MS. That's 441. What does that mean, 441? 1681. And he was nifter in the year Yoshar, 516. That's 1756. The Pnei Yehoshua was nifter in the year 516. And he goes up to Shemayim in the year 516, and he sees Moshe Rabbeinu, and Moshe says, down here in this world I was only able to daven 515 tefillah. I'm still waiting for the 516th tefillah, which we have the audacity to say, which is Yiskadel v'Yiskadesh Shemei Rabbah. And we hope that Hashem's name should be magnified and sanctified, and we should be zoicha to see the ultimate sanctification of Hashem's name with the Binyan Beis HaMikdash. We hope soon again to see Moshe Rabbeinu coming through the Midbar, splitting the Yamsuf, and he's going to say, Ebra na, I want to cross the 50 Amos of the Yarden. I want to see Es Hahar HaToiv Hazeh. I want to see Yerushalayim V'Halavana, and I want to see the Beis HaMikdash, which we all want to see. May we be zocheh to see it. B'mher v'yaminu. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, Baruch Ti everyone. Have a great day. Kol Tov. By the way,
Summarize the last the answers.
the what?
Hello, Rabbi.
Yom HaShishi. What's the quick summary of Yom HaShishi?
So we say like this: there's 6 during the week. It's Elokim, 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 Elokim. Shabbos, Vayichal Elokim. Elokim is finished. What is on Shabbos? Yom HaShishi Vayichulu HaShamayim, which is Rosh Tevos Yud Kei Vav Kei. Shabbos begins the Midas Harachamim, the Shem Havaya. So Vayichal Elokim.
It's offsetting it.
Yeah. So in other words, Elokim is finished, and Shem Havaya begins. Rachamim begins.
Okay, thank you.
What does it mean that the note did on Shabbos? I mean, during the Holocaust, there were 5 years worth of Shabbos where stuff happened. During 3 weeks, during the Churban Bayesheni, between Shabbos with Hamas and Tisha B'Av, the Romans run around doing all sorts of terrible things on Shabbos. What does people die every year on Shabbos? What does it mean that they did on Shabbos?
We say in the Haftarahs for the 3 weeks, we say that Klal Yisrael, we say, Shaimu Shamayim Azini Aretz Ki Hashem Dihiber Hashem Diber. What does that mean, Hashem Diber? The Shem Havaya, which is Midas Harachmim, Diber, was transformed to Midas Hadin. So even though Shabbos is inherently a time of Rachamim, but Midas Harachmim could sometimes be transformed into Midas Hadin. So the order and the regular order of operation is can be transformed, can be changed.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.